Hello, everyone. Welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social for what should be a lively debate. But I am joined by my panel, so let's kick it off with a wristwatch check. Dennis, thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So today I'm wearing the Parmigiani Fluier Tonda PF Micro Rotor.
Oh, awesome. Let me go full screen on that.
Oh, sure.
Very
Hopefully
nice.
it's focused. I finally got a new webcam that's a little less whiny.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Ricky, welcome back. Been a while, but always enjoy having you on. What are you wearing?
It has been. So do you want to see what I've got on the wrist?
Oh yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, go for it. This is today's wristwear.
That's the new one, or is it a vintage?
No, 1967 Boulevard Keytron Spaceview 214, original and best.
Oh, beautiful.
And there's a story why I'm wearing this today. So yeah, that's wristwear for today, the OG.
Can you I know some people, like, the humming of it really bothers them at night and stuff. Can you hear it? Does it?
You can. It's not as clean as I've heard in videos from way back in the day, because the mechanism is obviously many decades old, maybe hasn't been serviced and lubricated properly. But if you hold it to the ear, you can definitely hear it hum. And if you put it in a glass table, it just amplifies it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's the one thing I've heard from people that collect them, that the hum can get a bit gets you after a while. I suppose if you have it,
always store it with the battery out, because the batteries in it last less than a year, because it's constantly driving the motorized mechanism and the technology that's in it. There's a whole story behind it, but basically this has been rekeyed to work with newer technology batteries, because you can't get the original one from many decades ago, and the one that's in it just now is less power and less voltage, so it doesn't quite run as well. But hey, it looks great on the wrist. That's all that counts.
Yeah, it looks really cool, and I'll be interested to see what they do with the new one when it comes out.
The $6,000 variation of this, yeah, we'll have to see how that goes.
Overcharged for the price, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, what are you wearing?
This is the Christopher Ward C9 moon phase. Sorry, it's a white dial and the lights don't help, but it actually is set correctly for the moon right now. So I noticed it was going to be a full moon, so I thought I'll wear it because it's easy to set at a full moon. So there you go.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll round it out. I'm wearing my first watch that I bought this year out with my own money is the Sealander Extreme, which
you usually buy watches with other people's money.
Yes, yeah, this is actually or get sent them, which is probably the topic for today's show. But yeah, I got this one, and then immediately, Ricky, after I saw your Instagram post, I got this. This was the second watch I got.
Oh, it's not even the watch; it's the experience.
It's the box. Yeah, the watch isn't that good, but the box is absolutely incredible. So yeah, so there'll be review coming out for the Extreme next week, and then also the kill count watch, which to see the watch you'll have to come back and watch that. Awesome. Well, today, so the reason for this show is that last week somebody asked a question about watch reviewers when we did our Q&A show, and this is an extension of that question because we really got into it, but we didn't really have enough time to go over it all. So what the premise of the show is, I guess, I titled it like, do watch reviewers have to hate watches, basically, to be trusted, which is a kind of a little bit of a clickbaity one, but essentially the idea is what is watch reviewers taking watches in? Are watch reviewers enthusiasts or journalists on YouTube? Should we be treated like journalists, even though we're kind of doing this as a hobby, or various different things? So I'm going to kick it off, but guys, keep all your questions coming in the comment section down below. So I'll start with a question to the panel. Is, I suppose, Ricky, you're slightly different, but for Dennis and I and Mark, who do sort of this as an enthusiast, like, should we be, as we're making content that is being consumed by mass people, should we be treated as like enthusiasts or journalists? Which ones are reviewers closer to, I would say? I guess is a question. Who wants to dive in?
I guess I don't want to say it depends because it feels like a cop out, but it does kind of depend. I'm gonna pivot it a little bit and say I'm gonna take your clickbait question about, do watch reviewers have to hate watches to be trusted? The answer there is yes. They do. I'm not saying that you are not trustworthy if you don't. What I'm saying is the people, broadly speaking, will be suspicious if you only say positive things. They will think that there's an agenda. Whether there is or isn't is somewhat irrelevant. So I think in that regard, then yes, you would have to be willing to do a bevy of reviews in order to sort of mitigate that. Now, the style of reviewer you want to be is completely up to you, and enthusiasts are going to, review things the way they want to. So like my channel is not review focused. Every watch I have ever reviewed is a watch I have owned that I've personally purchased. But there can be seen biases with that because I'm already only talking about things that I've selected for some reason, like I've curated it. So that suspicion may very well be there. But in my instance, they wouldn't have the concern that I'm receiving watches and thus I'm being bought to do reviews because I have to spend money to get them all. So I'm shielded on one front, but I'm vulnerable on another side.
So when I've done long form reviews that aren't based on a press release, it's generally been of a watch that I've bought myself. So I'm kind of with you there, Dennis. Of course, if it's a watch I've bought myself, I hope I like it. There are some watches that I've bought and then fallen out of love with, but you don't hear that side of the review necessarily because that could be 2 years, 3 years down the line. And I'm not going to find a review and say, oh, by the way, I sold this because I got bored with it. But, it's from a personal point of view, it's much harder to write a review of something you don't like. You have to work so much harder. One, to just go, why the heck am I reviewing this piece of junk? I hate it. You then have to go and find things to say that you can have that opinion and you can say, well, I don't, this isn't a watch for me. Like most of the last 2 or 3 years of Christopher Ward's output haven't been for me. They've been good watches. I just don't like them. But you can't have that as a premise of a review because no one, I suspect, really cares what I think anyway. So it's just going to be, you have to write carefully when you do that. But do you have to hate watches to write the review? As an enthusiast, if I hated every watch, I wouldn't get out of bed and do it. But, it's not my profession. It's a hobby.
Okay. My turn to wade in, is it?
Yeah, please.
The thing that I say on the podcast is there are no such thing as bad watches unless they don't tell the time properly, they're not accurate, they have got mechanical defects, or they cause you irritation on the skin. They dig in, they're sharp, something like that. As long as it tells the time, it's accurate, it's mechanically sound or quartz sound, then it's fine. It passes the sniff test. But everything else is really opinion. It's like buying a car that's brown. I wouldn't buy a car that's brown. Doesn't mean I hate brown cars. If that car was unreliable, it broke down, spent more time in the shop than on the road, if it delivered really poor miles per gallon, etc., a review of that would say these are the negatives, the downsides of things. But with watches, it's very much superficial. It's how it looks, it's how it wears on the wrist, it's how it makes you feel, and that's an opinion. So when we do things on the show, we generally tend to say we showcase, or we don't review, we just explain to the world this product, this variation, this color scheme is now available. If you like the look of it and it's not dug into our wrist, then it's a watch. It seems to function fine. Everything else is kind of aesthetic, and that's where it's a bit like reviewing shoes or fashion or something, or luxury or things like that. When we talk about things, there will be points on a watch that we don't like. I commented on this one earlier and said it's terrible. Obviously, it's ancient, you can't buy it brand new, but it's terrible because the battery life on it is chronic. And the fact is, you can't buy the original parts that would work with it. You have to modify it, you have to do this, that, and the other. And then the new one that's just come out just now, I poo-pooed the fact that they're charging $6,000 or something for when you can get an original that is, for all intents and purposes, the same for about $600-700 on eBay. So that's the way I look at it. For reviewing watches, when it comes to what I do, what we do with the podcast, generally if a brand gets in touch and says, we've got this watch. I say it's a Breguet. Say it's something that looks a little bit like that. Not my style. So I would generally not waste my time reviewing a watch to turn around at the end of it and say, I don't know why this is here. I wouldn't wear it. Doesn't go with my attire. I'm the wrong person to review it. I'm also the wrong person to review ballet and opera. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So we've got a good question that comes. So Into the Void says, I've noticed across all product types, there's a subset of the audience that doesn't recognize criticism unless the reviewer is flaming the product and the company. I think that's quite an interesting one, because I've certainly noticed that. I mean, most of my reviews or showcases or whatever we call them, I always say there's always pluses and minuses to every watch that I say, but it was only when I flamed that Grand Seiko or something that the viewers really responded to that in terms of watching it more, and I put that in the title. So I think that's interesting. Maybe YouTube's encouraging people to be a little bit more animated about their criticism of things in order to get the views.
That's why Nico Leonard does really well.
Yeah, it's a good point. I haven't seen him pop up on my feed for ages, actually. I presume he's still doing well, because I think he's the most subscribed to, I think, YouTuber other than Teddy, I think. Yeah.
But it's true that being fair and balanced is out of fashion.
Yeah.
Well, it's not exactly exciting, maybe would be the devil's advocate. Never underestimate the appeal of a good rant. And you take like Sam as an example, like it's just it's like the Cookie Monster thing with cookies. It's a sometimes food. Sam does a sometimes rant. And that's why with the Grand Seiko, it's noteworthy that it annoyed you enough to go to the extent that you did. Because I agree. I mean, we're dealing in a subjective realm, but I also don't want to be overly reductive and say, well, because it's all opinion, we shouldn't express anything, because someone else might view things a different way. I see it both sides, like your commenter Into the Void noting the issue about that. Sometimes it doesn't seem like the audience understands unless it's really aggressive. I've seen the opposite as well, where if you say even the most minor criticism, you hate the brand. And it's like some of this is just people lack subtlety, some people, and they can comment just as easily as everyone else. But I've waxed on that, in my opinion, mini Omegas are too thick, and people ask me why I despise Omega. I've owned Omega. I don't despise Omega. I want them to be better than what they are.
Yeah, especially on my channel, I think I would say not attract the fans that I think are most passionate are Seiko fans. For what I get on my channel, I think there's a lot that don't like you said, Dennis, not the slightest negative thing. Like on one of my reviews where I talked about a diver's extension, where it basically folds out to do, like, I think it's an extra 5 mil, but it's not ratcheted. And I said, it would be better with a ratcheted clasp. For some reason, like, everybody who's ever put a wetsuit on and diving gear is in my comment section telling me how wrong I am. So to me, it's like, so it seems so trivial. But then at least they're feeling something from the review. It's getting you some emotion instead of complete apathy, I suppose. It's quite. So we've got another. Brassic Time says, yeah, we'll get onto this for sure. There's a broader issue with some big watch YouTubers getting freebies from watch companies, e.g. accompanying factory tours, but omitting the paid promotion flag. So, in fact, just let me. I mentioned Seiko, and I summoned Seiko Todd and Colby. Todd
and Colby.
Yeah, and Colby. I summoned you both through my the mere mention of the word Seiko.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so we were just getting to the question, I guess, Todd or Colby, I'll ask you, is watch reviewers. The question is, do we have to hate watches to be trusted?
No. I don't think so. In fact, why would you trust somebody that doesn't love watches?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose specific ones. I suppose if you hated all watches, then that would be. In fact, that channel might do really well. Do you know what I mean? If somebody just like everything was crap, like they came over
I
the
could do
desk.
that channel. I could rant for a long time about watches I don't like.
Oh yeah, Mark ruins everything. Horology edition.
Yeah, I should try it.
No, I don't think that would work. I was thinking like Doug DeMuro, who, if you know, does lots of kind of very from interesting cars to rather oddball things. And if you didn't have a passion for cars, that would be awful. And so, I think the parallel for watches is you've really got to love horology. You got to love the history. You've got to love, what watches do beyond just tell time, like watches of espionage talks about, right? A watch, just isn't there to tell the time. It means something. So unless you have that, I guess, attitude, I don't think it would be very good for very long.
Yeah. Well, and I
Did
totally.
we get a chance to look at the question? Did we go through that before the two guys joined?
Which one? The enthusiast versus journalists one?
Was the one about factory tours.
Oh yes, yeah. So this was it. Yeah, let's go over this one. So Brassic Time says there's a broader issue with some big watch YouTubers getting freebies from watch companies, e.g., accompanied tours of factories, but omitting the paid promotion flag. That makes viewers suspicious. I mean, yes, I always put the paid promotion flag on, but I'm not virtuous by any means. I certainly do work with brands. I mean, Ricky, did you have an idea of what your feelings on that were?
Lots. I did my first factory tour before the pandemic, when the podcast was literally a few months old, and it was Adrian from Bark and Jack was going to JLC, and he needed a hand with things. I was local; he'd moved up to Scotland, or was moving at the time, and I went over there. But there was no money exchanged hands. I had to take time off work to do it. Never get any free watches. Never even reviewed any JLC stuff. So a factory tour in itself isn't something of merit. It's good as a holiday, well, it's not even a holiday because it's so curated. You get to the airport, you're picked up, you're taken to a place, you do a thing, you're in the airport and you're back home. So that one, it depends. If it's a factory tour tied into a campaign, some advertising, a sponsorship, a freebie, then yes. But it's also like saying car journalists, most of them, when they review a car, they get to keep the car for a week, 2 weeks. But they don't write in their article, I got this car for 2 to 3 weeks to properly test it, drive it to work, drive it in different types of congestion on the Autobahn, on motorways, etc., etc. So it's a massive grey area. If it's along with something else and there was a monetary part to it, then yes. I mean, when we've had episodes of the podcast sponsored by eBay, or more recently the Hong Kong Watch Show, then we put at the front of it, this episode is brought to you by, and then we do the paid promotion thing. But again, it's such a grey area, this thing, and people they dip in, they dip out. It just depends who the specifics are about. And then there was a big thing about mobile phone reviews, where a lot of the guys like Mr. Mobile are now saying at the beginning, I paid my own way, Gamers Nexus, I paid my own way to go to this factory over in China to see how graphics cards are made. Some people go really to the bone with it, and other people think, well, I'm taking time off work, it's actually costing me money. So it's totally a grey area.
Yeah. Also, I think factory tours, I find them interested. It's one of those topics in the watch review community where you think that the audience might be really interested in it, but they're not. Like watch shows, like I didn't make a video of Wind Up because I knew that the views wouldn't have been not worth my time, but it would have been a lot of effort for probably a video that the audience probably would have enjoyed that much. And I find that a lot with factory tours, because I noticed when Russell, Mad Watch Collector, went to Hanhart, he did a really good job of that, the tour video, but I don't think nobody watched it in comparison to some of his other, like a Casio video or something like that.
But is that because that's a small brand? If that being a Rolex factory tour or Tudor or Omega, would that not have woof?
Oh yeah. If you were let into the hallowed halls of Rolex, I don't think anybody's ever done a Rolex tour, have they?
They don't do that. No.
Oh yeah, that would be quite.
Hodinkee got one.
Oh really?
Yeah, a few years ago.
Did they do a video on it?
Ended up.
No, they did not do a video. They did an article, and there were certain elements that they weren't allowed to photograph.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so let's have a look through here. Let's have a look through here. So 99% of reasonable criticism is not hate. It's just that fanboys by their nature can't handle criticism. Interesting point. And then
particularly Tudor. I love Tudor fans. Easiest target in the world if I'm feeling mean.
well, yeah, I mean, Pete's carved a little cottage industry out of that, hasn't he, Pete McConville, with his Tudor opinions. Eric says review or critic. There is a difference, in my opinion.
Is there an assumption when you say critic that you won't like something?
Yeah.
Is there an assumption if you're a reviewer that you will like something? That might be a difference.
Mark, is your audio quite low?
Yeah, it's kind of. I think you might be modulating. Yeah, I think your audio might be.
Yeah, I think there's a StreamYard autocorrect going on that I will need to figure out next for later.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that critic means bad. I mean, we think, for example, of movie critics, right? Those are just people who get paid to review movies, right? And they like it or they don't like it, but being a critic doesn't mean critic and reviewer are synonyms.
Yeah, because you would say a restaurant critic or an art critic, wouldn't you? But I guess you would expect a review from them, or the critical drinker, which is in his name. He doesn't most of the stuff he hates, but I think some of the stuff he does actually like. Awesome. Okay, so here we go. So Mark says it's in the watch company's interest to foster a positive relationship with influencers. Yeah, that word. Factory tours is a soft payment, but it surely is influencing the influencers.
Yeah, I think it would do that even subconsciously. So one of the university courses I teach, I talk about bias and perceived bias and the way your brain works when you're given certain stimuli or certain choices to make. And we often fall on whatever our internal biases are. And it could be a broad range of things. And if you don't know, really, really, really pay attention to your own way of thinking, just by going through that factory tour, I guarantee if there was a way to do it scientifically, after the tour, your appraisal would be higher than it would be before the tour. If there was actually a way to do that, just because you would be hit with so many positive inputs during that factory tour, it'd be very hard to come out and still be as objective as you would be if you had it just in front of you and you were doing an analysis of it. So I think that part is just good with the way human nature works.
Yeah. And I suppose you would have to. I was just thinking of that how it's made channel or whatever, how stuff's made channel. That where it's like a clinical dissection of because they did one on Breitling, didn't they? Where it's just a clinical dissection of how the factory works, but it offered no opinion on the watch really. So yeah, what you're saying is it might be a bias, unconscious bias, because you've been treated so nicely by the brand and you got to see all the intricacies.
Yeah, I think that's.
But that would also depend on your levels. The person that maybe goes for their first factory tour becomes a bit of an ambassador because this is the first thing they've ever seen. But after you've done maybe 5 or 10, that 10th brand that invites you along to see behind the curtain, you're not going to really pay them any more. You might actually bring them down a couple of levels because they don't compare to the other factory tours you've already done.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah,
that is interesting. Yeah, because you would just. Yeah, you yourself would become sort of not overstimulated with it, but you'd have a lot to compare them to.
Yeah,
and let's face it, for a watch factory tour, other than changing the branding on the end of the bench, by the time you've seen your 10th, you're probably not seeing an awful lot more. Yeah. So the first one could be fascinating. The 10th one is. So why are you different from the 8th or the 4th? Are you going to show me something new?
So why don't you make your own hairsprings?
Yes. Because it's kind of tricky, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to admit that.
I saw them making it. Why can't you?
Yeah, so somebody, so underachieving watch collector was asking about Adrian, but he also asked, like, is Adrian really on the GPHG? Is Adrian really a GPHG judge? I think I'm sure he is. Yeah,
A judge?
Parker, or is he on the committee or something?
What exactly do you mean? He's in the academy, but everybody's in the academy. Me and Dave are in it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so he's not a judge then. He's not on the judging panel.
No. You just go onto the website and apply. Anybody. I thought you don't have to be a journalist. I don't believe you just go on. The only person I personally know that's one of the judges this year is Barbara Plumbo, but she's been an academy member for maybe 10 years.
Yeah. So next question, Robert Coleman says, the majority of people who are watching reviews will know if they're being spun a yarn, so your reputation would be short-lived, in my opinion. Do you think for new watch collectors that's true? Because I think, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's a great point, Robert, but I think that especially if you're like new to the hobby and there's somebody that you trust, you might not immediately pick up that they're, otherwise we all wouldn't have a Seiko SKX in our collection, would we?
Yeah, I pretty strongly agree with Robert, and Mark IKN makes basically the same point or a similar point. I feel like, when I watch a watch reviewer, I want that person to be a collector and enthusiast first, right? And I feel like we know when the person is shilling something. And nobody that I watch, I mean, I don't think it's very common for a person to be just shilling something because that person wouldn't be around that long, because most collectors that I know don't want to watch something like that.
Yeah. It's also, I think it's very obvious in a like a Facebook group or like a chat room when somebody's like shilling a watch, isn't it? Because it's so like generic what they put, like, oh, this watch looks amazing with my suit today, and you're like, oh, all right, dude, yeah, okay. Yeah, so Mark says, yeah, Russell and TGV already had a positive relationship with Hanhart before that tour. The company knew it would go over well with their visitors. It's part of the game for a better or worse. I would have, if a brand invited me on a factory tour, I would have absolutely no problems going on a factory tour.
If you want to put me full screen for a wee sec.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is the jury for this year's GPHG, and it's all online. So Adrian isn't on this one, but you've got a whole load of good people. Chris Granger, know him a little bit. Wouldn't consider him a personal friend. Waco, know him a little bit. But as we scroll down here, Barbara's the only one that I sort of recognise and know quite well. But no, Adrian Barker's not in the list.
Okay.
That's the entire jury list.
Because I actually thought he was a judge for some reason, but you've just cleared that up. Then it's actually, there's a difference between being a GPA. So what does an academy member do if they're not a judge? Like, because if you're in the the Oscars Academy or whatever the Oscars do, they send you the DVDs to actually review, don't they? Like if you're part of that circle. Yes.
And ended up on the interwebs. What's happened this year and the ones I've been involved is you become part of the pool that votes on things. So each round you get an email to say log in, and you'll be confronted with a web page with lots of different things, and you pick different watches to have 10 points, 8 points, 6 points, 5, etc. in all the different categories they do. And then you submit that, and then a couple of months later, once it's all whittled down, you do that over various rounds until almost the end, when the actual jurors, the proper people that are actually there just now over in Geneva, get to physically handle all the watches and get the one-to-one time. We are working on, or the people that are involved in the academy are just kind of, yeah, I've seen that watch, I've seen a review of it, seen a video of it, maybe not personally handled it, but that's the way they get through the thousands that are submitted, and then the hundreds that end up in the shortlist.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well, there we go. So we learned something then. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, so Into the Void. Is a reviewer more of a purchase helper and a critic? Critics are of art.
Helper.
Yeah, I would see myself as more of a purchase helper, perhaps. And this is where it comes with the idea that I've never reviewed a watch that I really didn't like on purpose. Like I didn't like set out to buy a watch or something that I might feel negatively about. So I think, because I think that's how I start, when I'm going to buy a watch, like I look for reviews. Like this Extreme I went to watch, and watch Chris, I think, was one of the first to have his review out. So I went there. And yes, so then Bobby says, influencers are just a branch for a brand to make its products. I don't think brands or most influencers care about the optics. I go into influencer review presuming he or she was paid to do it. Interesting. Yeah, because there's a difference between. Oh, actually, I'll ask the panel: is there a difference between like cold hard cash, like somebody actually taking a payment as a paid sponsorship, or somebody sending a watch in for review? Is there a difference?
If you get to keep the watch, not so much. If you're returning the watch, it's not the same. That wouldn't be, at least under like FTC guidelines for the United States, that wouldn't be seen as having a paid review because you only borrowed the product. If you got to keep it though, it's almost the same, except obviously cash is better because it saves you a step before you actually turn that watch into cash.
But how would you? So I've never taken cash off a brand. Not that I'm opposed to it. I'm not like allergic to money or anything. It's not like a chivalrous thing. But how would you feel if me or another reviewer said, "Hey, somebody sent me this watch in for free for the review," and a series of reviewers that got this watch sent into the channel, or if I said, "Hey, somebody gave me $600 to review this watch," does that change the perspective at all?
Wording means a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's there's great books. Robert Cialdini, I think I'm mispronouncing his surname, does some great books on how the mental part of your brain works. And influence is a huge thing. 2 books, Influence and Yes. Everybody should go and check it out for day-to-day life. It explains how you're being sold to and marketed to. And just the changing of the phrasing of the words can make such a difference. And if someone said, I get paid £500 to talk about this watch, or I'm reviewing this watch, I'm being impartial, but they said I don't have to return it, means the same thing almost if you sell it in the secondary market, but it sounds completely different.
Yeah, because to me, I think I'm not objective about this because obviously people do send watches in for me to review. But yeah, I think I would feel weird because if a brand's giving you a watch, like, oh, you're an enthusiast, like, oh, please review this, we'll give you a watch for your collection. Whereas if it was like, oh, somebody paid me $500, it feels a little bit more like an envelope was slipped across the table a little bit. I don't know Colby, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a difference. I mean, I know there are YouTube channels that do get paid to do reviews, although sometimes it's not by brands, it's by retailers, like Exquisite Timepieces or, others that I guess there's no need to list them all. But, sometimes I feel like those reviews are a little bit generic, but that is a key difference too.
Yeah. Also, you've got, I mean, somebody's talking about Teddy and
Jurassic Time brought up Teddy. I was looking at that.
Teddy B did a video on the Breitling factory with very soft questions. He just so happens to be a Breitling AD. Yeah, so it's funny that I think this is something we've talked about on the channel before, but I definitely get the panel's opinion on this. It's funny how the top channels are actually outlets for watch resellers. So Teddy owns his own store, Nico Leonard, Watchfinder, when that was the biggest channel, that was obviously an outlet for a watch company. So it's funny that the biggest channels, or the ones that get the most views, are actual trying to sell you a watch. They are actually an outlet for watch sellers instead of it being enthusiast. And I'm not saying they're not enthusiasts, but they're in business, like this is their day job. Does anybody else find that interesting? Or
well, same with Time and Tide. They are now huge. They were big. I mean, they were kind of salesy over in Australia. Now they've got the place in London. They're opening New York. So they are retail. Hodinkee had a shop. They had Crown and Caliber. They had the new shop. They were an AD for multiple places, did their own limited editions. It's a fantastic way of bringing people that come to your website who have read about a watch, it's just one click away after they read the review to purchase it, and then you make your 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think, I have a soft spot in my heart for Teddy Baldassar because his videos got me into watches back in 2020, with all his top 10 lists and stuff like that. And I would say the difference with Teddy is he definitely comes at it from the perspective of a salesman. I mean, but he's very upfront about that his videos are for advertising. They are part of his business. They are not the thing that generates revenue for his company. So I think that's just how you have to look at his channel, is that's what he's trying to do with his channel. The only videos I really still watch regularly of Teddy's are his Q&A videos. I think that's where you get the most personal comments from Teddy himself. But even still, you can definitely tell he is pulling his punches.
Well, with Teddy, his origin story, from what I can piece together, and again, I could be completely wrong, is he started as almost a men's fashion,
Yes.
men care type thing. And his videos were okay until he did one about watches and it shot. And he thought, I know about marketing. Let's jump on this. And that became apparent when he did a collab with Grant Cardone. And he did his video. And Grant Cardone's behind the scenes team did their video. And when they released theirs, you heard Teddy talking candidly about, I'm doing this for marketing. Paraphrasing again, don't want sued, but that kind of thing. So he comes at it from a different way. He's not the enthusiast first, talking about something that he bleeds watches every day of the week. And he's turned it into a massively successful vehicle.
I think I used to watch the Teddy videos off and on, and then you started to realize very strongly, without knowing the background, that Teddy was a distributor for watch brands. So he'd have a video with 15 watches and 7 of them he'd be selling. At that point, you kind of go, I get it. I just wish you'd told me that the 7 of these watches that I looked upon your website that you sell, I wish you'd told me. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't mind him doing it. I just want him to tell me that I am a distributor for this brand.
I think that's kind of my frustration with Teddy is I respect him because I know he's a collector first. He genuinely loves watches and has for a long time, but he just doesn't let that side of himself out. Like he famously refuses to share his personal collection on the channel, for example.
Yeah, and he did that. He speaking of factory tours, he did the one of Movement MVMT, didn't he? And it was supposed to be pitched as this is going to be an expose, and it really wasn't. Like there was a real funny there was a real funny part of it, which I don't think they meant it to be funny, but he walked into the designer's room and it was just a guy in an ordinary office just with like pictures of watches stuck on the wall, and Teddy's like asking him about watch design, and it was so obvious that obviously they just buy all these I think they started off buying from AliExpress and Sayers, didn't they? Like there was very little design work that they were actually doing, and it was quite funny because this guy, they was trying to ask the guy about watch design, and it was but he kind of pitched it as being a little bit funny, but he did pull his punches. But that was actually, if anybody's not seen that, it's well worth going back and reviewing that. Okay, awesome. So Brian says, as a reviewer in another market, I remind myself that I must be honest about where the item fits in the market, as well as recognize where I am in the market and my listeners are in the market. So I guess he's saying, is he saying like stick to your know your audience and know what they might like, so therefore stick to watches with that in mind? Like for example, maybe Russell does with his with his G-Shocks and Casios and Seikos and stuff like that.
Or does he mean for a price point of a product in his realm, does it marry up? Like a Gribble Forza, you wouldn't say that compared to a G-Shock or that compared to a Daytona, that is way, way up there. Is that what he means?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm wondering if it's like that's where I'm leaning. My interpretation of this was, say, for example, you were reviewing an Orient. Are you, for the price point, are you really going to trash the bracelet that hard? Versus if we're at Rolex price points at that stage, maybe the bracelet needs to be a more central piece to the review, or our standards have to go up as our dollars go up, and that makes sense to me.
And if your audience is really into sub $500 watches, and you suddenly start reviewing $5,000 watches, it's hard to change that context. So because you review in a different way, your expectations are different, and your audience's expectations are different.
Yeah.
So if you know that your audience is let's take Russell as an example. If your audience is the G-Shock Orient part of the market, that's who you have to understand your audience's expectations to have them listen to you. So you set yourself and say, my audience of 10,000 is in this segment. Therefore, I'm in this segment, and I have to review products that fit that segment too.
Yeah. And then I guess, does that go back to the first question that I asked before Colby, or before we mentioned before Colby and Todd joined, is enthusiasts versus journalists. Like if you're gearing, which you kind of have to do, YouTube encourages you to do this. Like if you're gearing it to, I just do top 10 lists, or I'm just reviewing watches like $1,000. In fact, those channels do much better. Like Russell has his segment, also Ben from Ben's Watch Club has his affordable watches thing. Then I guess that kind of flips you from, I'm doing this as a hobby and reviewing watches that I'm personally enthusiastic about, to being this is a channel I'm feeding. I know my audience, and therefore I am reviewing watches that fit into that kind of my niche of the market. I'm not really necessarily reviewing watches that I'm like incredibly enthusiastic about, like because I got a variety of watches I'm really like enthusiastic about personally, but I know certain ones, like when I reviewed like a Patek on the channel, APs on the channel, stuff like that, they don't perform well, because I think the audience isn't expecting that. So I think that's maybe is the line between enthusiast and journalist, perhaps.
Yeah, like I like to go to cars too, back to cars. So Auto Week is a journalistic publication, I think, in many ways. Of course, they have enthusiasts that are part of the staff there and write about the cars. But then if I pick out something else, I'm thinking that automobile used to be this way when it was founded by David E. Davis Jr. way back when, and their motto was no more boring cars. So they wouldn't at the time, right? You would never see them do a Pontiac 6000 or anything like that, right? It had to be some car that had to be exciting. I think that there are equivalencies in the watch business, although I'm a little bit at a loss to exactly define how that translates. But I think that there is that somewhat too here. But maybe it's more of a mix, perhaps, in the watch business. I'm not quite sure.
I think if you're going to claim to be a journalist, you should also write about the bad stuff. So let's say brand X has a problem with its movement and they can't correct the date properly. You should write about that. Mm-hmm. Whereas a reviewer wouldn't write about that unless they're coming on, unless they're saying don't buy this because, but or if you hear that brand X is using diamonds that are blood diamonds, would you write about that? A journalist should. A reviewer, well, one may not know, but probably wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I wonder whether also if you were going to delve into some really like heavy hitting topic like that, like perhaps like Periscope does. I don't know whether, well, I'll ask the panel, does anybody know whether you would be basically shielded because you're a journalist by any malicious legal
You'd
trouble?
be shielded if you stayed in Malaysia like he is.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's where Periscope is based in Malaysia. So he doesn't. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Because I know some big YouTubers have the media insurance, don't they? So
Yes, we do.
oh yes.
Oh.
I forgot you guys. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Yeah, you need to, because if you make a statement that disparages a brand as unsubstantiated, or you can't pull evidence to say where you found out about something, and it causes a problem, then they can come after you. Because if you reduce in the mind of the consumer what people think of a brand or a product, and it's proven that you've actually diminished their ability to earn or create profit or drive revenue, then they can come after you. So even if you're a journalist, if you don't have your checks and balances in place, they can come after you. So yeah, media insurance is useful, and you can get it. It's fairly inexpensive. A couple of $1,000s a year covers you up to about 15 million, I think it is.
Wow.
But,
Yeah,
you know, sort of modern journalism and lawyers go hand in hand, and they have for a very long time. Can I say
CoffeeZilla.
this? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I say this? Can I prove this? If you can, then you can print.
You can, but also more so in the States with the litigious nature and slap lawsuits and things. Look at CoffeeZilla, where you've got Logan Paul, Jake Paul coming after him just to tie him up in court, burning through his money with lawyer fees. When at the end they know they're not going to win anyway, but they've got more money to keep the lawyers.
Yeah, is it slap suits? Do they call
Slap,
that?
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah, because I wonder whether that's another interesting thing, like, because the YouTube, like, especially in the YouTube in general of reviews has been a bit like the Wild West. Like, I've never I mean, like Grand Seiko, for example, I mean, I made a good point in that, but imagine that they were like, oh, because you said it doesn't wear well, that has impacted us, for example. I wonder whether this is something, because YouTube a couple of years ago, people were using music, and we might get like a copyright strike here and there on the music that we use and play in the background. But now there's actual firms, litigious firms, going after YouTubers for money for copyright. So I wonder whether there might be a day of reckoning for channels that have been very negative in the past about certain brands, that when the brands, you know, when push comes to shove, if there's firms that spin up just to look at brand defamation or whatever, that there
Ambulance
might be.
chasers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be
Probably,
another.
yeah. Can we do a wrist check for the guys that joined late?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Todd, what you wearing?
All right. I always have two, right? So this is what I've been wearing. This has been on my IG. It's a 1976 Seiko Kakumi chronograph.
Lovely.
Blue dial. Hard to get there. Get a little bit of the blue here. Again, another fantastic Seiko blue dial. So I love this one. And since I've been out mowing the 40 acres, this is for you, Sam. Garmin.
Yay.
Right when I came in, that's what I was doing. So I have my Garmin running watch at the moment too.
And what are the two toy cars that you've got in the background?
So I've got a Porsche.
What model?
This is a 959 right now. No, this is the, I have to look again. Which one? Oh,
964?
Carrera. This is the Carrera. An older one. And since I'm a Saab guy, I have a Saab 900 turbo.
900.
Model. Yep, 900 turbo. My dad had this car, exact identical to it before he bought his yellow 93, which I have now.
Lovely.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. And also, Todd, you mentioned your Instagram, but it's at Seiko_Todd. So if you're not subscribed there, follow Todd if you want to see some Seikos.
There it is.
Colby, what are you wearing?
I have my newest watch, the Younghans Maxville Mega Solar, and I really love this thing. I got this I ordered it at Watches and Wonders in Chicago, and of course I love the classic design, but on this one, it has a high accuracy quartz movement and it's radio controlled. So really love this thing.
Awesome.
Oh, how thin is that? It's radio controlled?
Yeah, it's like 9 or 10 millimeters.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
It's the more modern version. The other Younghans.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I've thought about getting the one Mark's holding. I really like
that. The new one?
I think the design's been around a couple of years. It's a great looking watch. It's all ceramic with a ceramic bracelet. But don't buy one. It's a pig to use. There's no pushers. There's just little holes and you need a stylus to get it to do anything, and the stylus doesn't fit in the place it's supposed to, and the operating system for it is, in my opinion, not as good as it could be. And yes, you can link it to your phone, but it can take 15 minutes of your phone beeping at the watch to get it to change time. So it's a beautiful looking watch. I'm glad I own it. I just hate to use it.
Mark's
it took me an hour to work out how to change the time zone back.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. Okay, well let's move on to we've talked about. I've never experienced this, but I have often worried about like access to brands. There's not a lot of brands that send me, a lot of micro brands send me watches, I would say, in for review. But a big brand, I've never worried too much about saying anything negative about a big brand because I would lose access.
We did once.
Okay.
Really?
We when I say we, it's the royal we, being British or Scottish. I did something. I made a meme a number of years ago on Instagram about a brand, and they blacklisted us for 2 years. And I didn't find out about it until the person told me 2 years later what had happened.
Okay. So, but does, I mean, I know you don't pull your punches. I can't imagine that when you found that out, you changed tact.
No, I asked them to stop being little schoolboys and actually, if you've got a problem, come and see me. I made a joke and said that one of their dials reminded me of the red reflector in the back of a BMX bike, because it did, and they didn't like that. So there you go.
Yeah. Also, I've often, sometimes I'll say in my reviews about, I was just thinking of like bias. I will say, like, I say it in my Veya videos that I'm actually biased towards the brand because I like the owners. I'm same with Jack Mason. I'm biased towards the brand because I actually really like Peter at Jack Mason. Probably similar with Christopher Ward, although I have given negative. There are some Christopher Wards that I really haven't liked. In fact, going to the point where it's, should you review a watch you wouldn't like? That's the reason why I never reviewed the Loco, because I knew I just wouldn't like it. But I guess maybe I should have got that in, because also I think what's interesting, I'm sure this is reviews across the board, but certainly with watches, is that a lot of times the things that you find negative are actually, unless it's like what you said, Ricky, where it's like a usability issue. But if it's just like, oh, I wish the hand was like that, then I think some people will see something you don't like as something they might like a positive for them.
Let's talk about the Loco, because that's the complete opposite of me. I love it. I think it's amazing. Couldn't wait to place an order and get one of the things. And I didn't like the Bel Canto. So I never reviewed it, because if I got the thing, I would say I would never wear this. I wouldn't wear it out. I don't like the way that it's the dial is just not symmetrical enough for me. It's too classic looking, but it functions. It tells the time. It's got a cool little chiming mechanism. The bracelet is fantastic. So I wouldn't be able to give it what it needs. I'm not right. Like I say, I wouldn't review an opera or a ballet or a certain genre of music or something that I wasn't into, because I just couldn't give it a proper review. I'm not the right person to review the product.
Yeah, that's what I thought about the maybe I should have done the Loco, but that's exactly, I'm very fond of Christopher Ward, but that just wasn't one that attracted me. Whereas this Extreme is basically like, I've filmed the review before. I joked in the review that if I could have designed a watch out of all of the Christopher Ward's bit box, it would have been this. But I don't think, I'm not even that good at design. I wouldn't have come up with this, but it's like a watch that's almost perfect for me. It's like the greatest hits of the last, several Christopher Wards that I've really liked. Okay, so go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's where maybe reviewers who have a wider range of things they like are really at an advantage. And here I think of like Watch Chris, and he just reviews so many different kinds and price ranges of watches. I think he just likes all kinds of different varieties of watches. Whereas like, if I had a channel, it'd be, much narrower in the things that I would review.
Yeah, I mean, Watch Chris, you'll see him. I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person quite a few times, and sometimes you'll see him with an Airwork, or sometimes you'll see him with a Timex. So he is actually across the board, like I think a lot of us are, genuine watch fans. And you're right, Chris does such a good job of like his is more like a library of more or less every single new watch that's come out. He'll have a review or a showcase on, and that's kind of his angle on it, which I think is really good. So we've talked about brands sending watches in for reviewers to keep, but what do we think about affiliate links perhaps to Amazon, or like the ad revenue that's earned from videos, or like sponsored content that isn't perhaps watch related, like BetterHelp or what, a Squarespace or something? Does that change? And I guess anybody who's like, I don't know, Colby or Todd or Mark or anybody who's not like a watch review YouTube reviewer, does that seem less less of a concern?
I just like affiliate links to be declared. I just want openness, because I'm going to make up my own mind as far as I can about the product you're pointing me at. So any, Jody would be a good example with his 11/11 sale for AliExpress. He actually says, I am an AliExpress affiliate. If you order from my links, I get something. And I'm okay with that, because quite frankly, I'm unlikely to buy any of the watches anyway. But, maybe there was a Pagani Speedmaster knockoff that looks like the Alaska project that I really should have bought a few years ago just to drive Sam crazy. But for the most part, I just want you to be honest. Just tell me up front, you're a distributor for this watch, you're getting an affiliate link. And after that, I'll work out in my own head whether I want to trust your review or not.
Yeah,
I don't mind the affiliate links myself. I watch a lot of camera reviews, audio equipment reviews.
I've gone mute.
Has he disappeared?
Oh.
Hello.
Hello. That was me then. I think my headphones went off.
I was
Sorry.
like, you had to switch to the big ones. Things are getting serious now.
The big guns.
So I was saying, I don't mind affiliate links. I don't even listen to see if somebody says something. When it comes to watches, I'll go back and I'll beat the drum of the first thing I said on this episode. That is, if it looks good, I'm interested. Because if the reviewer doesn't say, oh, it cuts my wrist, it digs in, it doesn't tell the time, it let water in when I took it into the shower, as long as it passes all the mechanical tests that way, as long as it looks good, it's got the functionality I'm wanting, perfect. When it comes to affiliate links, I don't see that as a problem for people. And we actually don't do it. Every brand we speak to about doing something like a watch review or something, they always want to give us an affiliate link. And the reason we don't do it is we don't want to be held accountable, where somebody says, you're getting money because you do this, and if 20 people buy it, 100 people, 1,000 people buy it, blah, blah, blah. We do the opposite. If we do a limited edition, then there is a monetary investment. That is something where, yes, we will make some coin at the end of a small percentage. But when it comes to the affiliate links, we shy away from it. We actually remove them when people send us them. We actually take them off the tail before we put it in the show notes.
And I'm with Mark and Ricky. It doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I know most people do this as a hobby, and it takes a lot of time to edit audio, to edit video, to upload the videos. And, if you're spending 10 or 20 hours a week doing this when you're working a full-time job and with a family, I don't think there's anything wrong with, getting some money from affiliate links or even, like we discussed earlier, keeping a watch or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also, I guess YouTube is also, they're getting something out of it, aren't they? They're getting, millions of videographers creating content for free for them. And then they're just, they're advertising it and then giving you, I mean, obviously they've got the means to distribute it. So, well, last question here, Amateur Hour says, my position is the reverse to Ricky and Sam. You only learn to be a reviewer by reviewing stuff you don't like. Reviewing stuff you like is just saying, I like this, with no deeper thinking.
Thank you, Pete McConville, because we know you've made that point in the WhatsApp so many times before.
Yeah, exactly.
But, it is much harder to review something you don't like. You do. I mean, this is what I find. I have to think much harder about reviewing a watch I don't like
Hmm.
than I do when I'm reviewing a watch I do like.
Well,
Yeah.
and I actually think a really good example comes from Pete, because I remember watching a review of his on the Zen 105 UTC, and his question was, what was the watch company trying to accomplish, and did they accomplish that? Right. So he made it less about his own personal preferences.
And
I mean-
and that was a good lesson, because you have to. I now try a lot more to understand what the designer was going for, and then it perhaps links to Brian the Pipe's comment too. If I can understand what the design is aiming for, I can then say, did they successfully hit that mark? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
I think one of the aspects that, I guess, if we were to distill it down, if let's say you were a reviewer and you only did positive reviews, and your viewers understood this after short order, or maybe you declared it, why would I ever need to watch you? The moment I see whatever the video is on, I already know the answer. I already know your answer. It's going to be positive. So I guess I should say thank you, because I just saved 8 minutes, but like, you have to be able to my other longer hobby has been pinball. This comes up a lot with enthusiasts in pinball. There'll be a pinball person that go, I love all pinball. So you have no capability to curate, is what you've just told me. Like, you think everything is good. Would we ever say, I appreciate film so much that every movie deserves to exist? They don't. Some do not deserve to exist.
Yeah. Yes. But then that probably goes back to the earlier comment about, are we showcasing a purchase, helping a purchase decision?
It depends what people use the videos for. If they're using it to scroll through and see what the watch looks like in real life in different light versus the renders versus the curated, polished marketing images that people put out, Grand Seiko put out the best images, but when you put it on the wrist, it looks completely different, especially under indoor lighting versus outdoor lighting. So when I use videos of reviews, I'm looking to find out if it stands up to what it's described as, and then to see it from different angles to find out how it works in the field or with a watch, how it looks, how it wears with different outfits, things like that. So that's the way I use it, not so much reviewing it, the negatives of it and the positives, because as again, if it runs, it tells the time, doesn't dig into your wrist and mechanically sound, it's a watch.
Yeah. Also, do you think the bigger channels, because they're not sort of backed by, say the bigger channels that aren't backed by a watch seller, or they're not a publication or something like that, do you think that they should feel some responsibility to, if they flamed a watch and, for example, it was a micro brand? For example, I've never seen Jody do this, but for example, if Jody flamed a watch from a micro brand, by rights, that could probably ruin the micro brand, couldn't it? Not the Jody would never do that, but say another channel that was big and they flamed a watch, you could actually disrupt a watch company's reason to exist, or they could actually cease trading. Do you think there should that matter, or should it, if the watch is rubbish, then they deserve to fail? I guess
it's happened.
Is the reviewer's loyalty to the brand or to the consumer?
Well, exactly. But this is a great question. Who should the reviewer be most loyal to, considering that they're not actually employed by YouTube, or they're not employed by a watch brand, or I'm not employed by Hodinkee?
Right.
It depends.
From our past discussion, my position. My position is it's the consumer should be the one that you side with, because the consumer is the one without the power in this relationship. So they're the ones most in need of it. If the brand wanted to not be destroyed, they need to get good and make a good watch.
I would agree with that one, and it depends what the mission statement is from the person making the videos, but that is how I would do it. And myself and Dave have got a good relationship with Oris, especially with Rolf, the CEO, but when they brought out their Cal 400, it had a real problem where when you set the time properly and you pop the crown back in, sometimes the minute hand would fly 10 minutes forward or backwards just due to the amount of tension in the wheels. And we talked about it in the show, but he's a pal, he's a friend. We've talked about various other things. Ming make great watches, but they made a real couple of stinking products where the hands were totally misaligned, and there was memes going around saying, it's 69 minutes past 3, and all this kind of stuff because nothing worked. And then there was some things in the background when they would only sell a watch, or there was another brand, I believe, that would only sell a watch to a woman. And that was seen as reverse sexism. And we talked about it and brought the discussion up. Even though we know these people at these brands, we like the brands, we like the products, you've got to remain impartial. And that's the key.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, just to be honest to your audience, truthful to your audience. Let's have a look.
Or the big one, when Bremont pretended they made their own in-house movement, and it was actually a Raj's K1 movement.
Yeah, I mean, they never really lived that down, did they? That comment, which was sort of it was in an interview, wasn't it, where he said it, I think. And they never, I don't think they ever fully lived that down eventually.
I think they
Breitling
did
did that too. Right. I'm sorry.
I think they did it twice. I think they did it before I even got into watches, where they'd said there was a movement that was something else.
Yeah, and they sort of backtracked and said it's because we modify it so much we consider it as our own or something like that.
Oh, so if you modify it enough, you don't even have to say Bosch anymore. It just becomes in-house.
Yes, yeah, and then they got totally. We weren't going to.
I actually hadn't heard about this one, so this is interesting. There are other brands where I still, think about the movement scandals with Panerai and
I was about to say
Tag,
Panerai springs to mind.
and Tag, yep.
Tag's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, Tag had the Seiko. That's right. It was Tag had really the Seiko movement. They called it in-house, and it's like, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, we're at the hour. We've got so many great comments. I wonder whether we should perhaps do a part 2 of this at some point. But I guess any final thoughts or anything anybody wants to plug themselves, upcoming reviews or shows or anything, or written reviews? No.
Can I plug my podcast?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know there's some car guys here just now.
Yes.
I get invited down. There's a watch brand here in the UK called Brooklands Watch Company. And they are associated with the Brooklands racetrack that anyone that's into motor racing should know a little bit about, because it was one of the first to do many firsts. And I get the opportunity to go down to England about 3 weeks ago there. And I thought it was really to do with the watch launch, but they wanted me to do a podcast and interview 4 people, which they called brand ambassadors. Turned out they weren't really brand ambassadors. It was people that the founder of the watch company had helped 20, 30 plus years ago with sponsorship money to make Guinness World Records. So I interviewed 4 Guinness World Records, the fastest humans on earth, including the current land speed record holder, Andy Green, who did, I think it was 734 miles per hour in thrust SSC. So that episode, the podcast, went out a week ago, and I don't say anything. So if you like the sound of my voice and you want to hear some real good people, listen to that show. It's a really good one.
Oh, that's fascinating.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Scottish Watches on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Awesome. Well, yeah, I've got a review coming out. Christopher Ward, and no, that's Christopher Ward. That's a fitness band, and then also by the Kill Count watch as well. Which actually, to Ricky's point, the bracelet on this does rip your hairs out on your wrist, so that is a bad bracelet. So
it's designed to draw blood. What'd you expect?
Exactly. It is. It does. It kills your hair. It should be House
Did my
of Wax.
influencing work? That's why you bought it, because you saw Simona's video.
Yes. Yeah. It should be called. Yeah. It should be a derivative of House of Wax, because that's what it does to the hair on your arm. That other horror film.
Sponsored by Gillette.
Yes. Awesome. Well, big thanks to everyone. Big thanks to the panel. Big thanks to everyone that was so active in the comment section. Sorry I didn't get to all of your comments. I think maybe this we'll perhaps have to do a part 2 of this. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Bye, guys.